So the movie Butcher's Crossing is a story about a mysterious buffalo hunter, played by Nicolas Cage, that lures a young Harvard dropout in the 1870s into the mountains of Colorado on a buffalo hunt, and it's about the journey kind of into the heart of darkness, with themes about human nature and about why we do what we do. You know, it's a story that is very fundamental about life and about human nature, and also about our relationship to the environment and all things that kind of I think about and care about a lot. And I just felt like it was such a spiritually powerful story that I personally connected with and wanted to share with the world.
Well, Miller is he's a character. I've seen similar characters in other novels that I grew up reading. Wolf Larson and the Sea Wolf, Captain Ahab and Melville's Moby Dick, Conrad with Kurtz. And there's something about the dark side of human nature where there's a bloodlust that gets combined with greed and the need to succeed that is in all these characters. And Miller, to me, embodied that as well. I wanted to have a chance to kind of reflect those feelings I had when I would read these books, including Butcher's Crossing, which John Williams wrote, which has a similar thematic to that in this character. So that's why I wanted to play the part and what he's about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, in both senses, maybe there's a longing to be a part of something, and knowing that you want something, but you don't know how to explain what that is. But I think what really drew me to Will, and as a fan of the book for a long time, it, it sort of ties into everything that Nick was talking about, where it's a character who wants to find that sense of purpose and will throw it into anything, and that naivete of thinking that this sort of like personal journey, this spiritual growth is this genuine thing, and then through that finding out that not only is he a pawn in something much larger and darker, but also actually becomes a perpetrator in that darkness, I think is a very important part of how you decide where you go and what you do with yourself.
When Gabe called me and told me about the novel, and I've read the book so many times now, but knowing that John Williams was a Vietnam veteran, and I'm a Vietnam veteran, I did 2 tours in Vietnam, so knowing that he wrote a coming-of-age story about a young man in 1860, young Will, and what he goes through in that journey is exactly what my journey was in Vietnam. Going in as a young man, I was telling Gabe this a little while ago, I went into Vietnam as a young man like John Wayne, because that's what my grandfather told me to do. But after my 4-year experience in the war, I came out as Lenny Bruce. I knew I was used, I knew I was squeezed dry, and I was a different person. Just like what's happening in Ukraine right now, all those young boys that are doing the bidding of Putin, I was doing Nixon's bidding. So the parallels are so strong and deep for me personally. Butcher's Crossing is a coming-of-age story that I think everybody, every man especially, is going to identify with it. And Nick was talking about the dark side of his character. These are the guys that taught me how to be a man in Vietnam. And whether it's right or it's wrong, it's an experience. It wears you. When you see the look on young Will's face from the beginning of the movie to the end, it's a beautiful, ugly journey for me.
I am how I got involved with the project. I'm the manager or the director of the Buffalo program at Blackfeet. And so when Gabe called me that they wanted to use the buffalo, during the movie, and I was there to of course, I've been involved in bringing back buffalo to tribal lands. So I'm very interested in all of what we do with buffalo. So I was glad to be there and just show that, be a part there to make sure that everything that we had done, that the movie had done it right with respect to the animal and watching over all of that. So that was kind of my part in there, of making sure that everything was taken care of right with the animals.
I mean, I could have just said, it's about what happened to the buffalo, in North America. That's simply put, that's also what the movie's about. So, and what happened to the buffalo is so closely tied to what happened with Native Americans, and I want to add that. And I don't know if Irvin, you have anything else to say about that, but
Yeah, that's really true. That the movie portrays where they got rid of most of the buffalo, and so they wanted to find a new part to actually kill the rest of them off. And that was really our livelihood. Native Americans, that was our livelihood, our food, our clothing, our lodging, our economy, I guess you'd call it. And so that was all taken away from us. And looking at maybe back then in the early days of getting rid of buffalo and consequently getting rid of Indians, but buffalo are still here and we're still here. So that's kind of, to me, what I really feel about it. And I'm a part of an organization that the Intertribal Buffalo Council, that is committed to returning buffalo back to Indian country and for our cultural and our spiritual connection to them. We're just like one, together with buffalo. So that's kind of really what I really feel about buffalo and tribes, is that returning them just for that cultural part of it. They mean a whole lot to us.
Well, I think, for me, film performance is imagination, and it was very helpful to read the book. I like making movies that are based on novels, and there's much in the book itself that helps inspire my imagination to play the part. But also, again, I was thinking of other characters that I was fascinated by in other books, as well as cinema, even Apocalypse Now, Kurtz, and then Gabe and I were talking about that. In the beginning, we were talking about even in athletics. Gabe is an athlete, ice hockey, and very competitive and aggressive, and we talked about Michael Jordan on the court with the Bulls, about that need to win, that at all costs to win, and that was something that was kind of a mantra we would talk about amongst ourselves, about that energy, that he was going to come back and have the biggest win of all, that this was going to be the ultimate buffalo hunt, and we were going to walk back into Butcher's Crossing with the greatest kill of all time. So that was trying to get into that headspace of win at all costs. I think that was part of the character's energy.